I can't believe that Meadowlark has unlocked this treasure. Amin has taken notes. And when Amin is taking notes, I want to know there is basketball wisdom on there. You got to play the imaging there, Mike, because every time Amin comes around, he teaches us something about basketball. And he watched that game last night, and he watches with different eyes than the rest of us. It's not just front office eyes. It's surgical eyes. It's really knowing the sport. I'm saying, this is true, right? You're watching that game, and you are fascinated by when Spo goes to zone, what he's trying to do with that as a chess move, what Mazzulla is or is not doing. I believe you're watching that basketball game differently than the rest of us, so I want to get to those notes.
Time to talk basketball. Amin knows basketball. He'll teach you basketball. Expert in basketball.
Dan has an amazing capacity to say. I want to get to those notes. Now let's filibuster as long as possible with imaging and flowery language.
Just wait till he reintroduces the guest we haven't gotten to in 2 minutes.
How about you get to the notes, though?
I know, man.
But see how I haven't stopped you this time from getting to the notes, and you're stopping yourself from getting. And you risk doing the thing that gets you in the penalty box before you get to the notes.
Which is what? Social commentary on Dan Le Batard?
That's 2 minutes around here.
All right, so we talked about that moment when Jaylen Brown took that terrible three-pointer right after Strus hit this three after getting blocked. And this was the Heat's offense after that. Jimmy Butler missing paint. Bam missing paint. Gabe missing paint. Love missing paint. Strus stripped, driving to the basket. Butler turnover. Bam charge. Bam turnover. In a row. Those are the possessions. Meanwhile, this is what the Celtics did in that time. You had a Tatum three that came off a high pick and roll with Horford, where Horford flipped the screen. That basically means when the big is coming up and said, I'm setting up the screen on this side, like, psych, I'm coming on the other side. But because Kevin Love is too slow to react to that, Tatum gets a wide open three.
Does that cut it from 7-4 for the Celtics? Is that where we are after the Strus? Strus has made this ridiculous basket to put them up 5, Mike, or to put them
9. Up
okay,
9.
Put them up 9.
Yep. And then
we saw a lot less of Kevin Love out there. Spo knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they did that. Then we had, after one of those misses, a little fast break action and a secondary break. Tatum got a 3, so again, it's kind of a transition bucket. Then you got a breakdown defensively by Butler trying to guard Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart drives to the paint. They collapse. Max Strus falls asleep. You get a swing, and Derek White gets a wide open 3.
Good offense.
Yep.
Like,
no, it was bad defense.
Bad defense.
Max Strus fell asleep.
Well, and bad defense.
As someone that was there, I was yelling at Max Strus for a good 5 seconds.
But also bad defense by Jimmy, because all he's got to do is stay solid, and instead he tried to get aggressive on Marcus Smart, which brings me to another point, paint touches. We talked about this last week. I told you guys about how like Bill Cartwright was a freak for paint touches. Now the crazy thing was, I believe it was game 2, TNT had the locker room kind of Spo talking to the team on the board behind them. It said paint touches. When we touch the paint, 1.68 points per possession. When we don't, 1 point per possession. This is a universal kind of thing in the league that coaches love when the ball gets into the paint. You heard Van Gundy talk about it the other night as well. And that play right there, Marcus Smart, that happened because they got a paint touch because Jimmy Butler, Justin, just stay still. Let him do whatever.
But your point before that on where the run gets away from Miami, where they start turning the ball over in a way that is conspicuous because they're very careful with the basketball. Your point is they were being aggressive. Jimmy Butler and others are getting shots at the rim that we've seen them make, and they were missing them or giving up the ball in transition.
So the misses are bad. The turnovers are horrendous. But for Miami, a team that is not, look, let's be honest, this isn't like will overwhelm you with talent. They have a very small margin for error. So basically, the way Miami succeeds is we don't make mistakes. We play mistake-free basketball. We let you guys make mistakes and we feast on them. The flip side of that is when you start making mistakes as Miami, you don't have a Tatum to kind of just talent your way out of it. So what happens after that play, you get a Brown transition dunk because of a turnover of that Strus strip. You get a Brown transition play off of a Jimmy lazy pass. And then you get a Tatum ISO pull-up jumper, which is like, all right, you give it to him because he's great. You allow for that. But then right after that, what do? Tatum gets the ball now because he's hit 2 threes and he hit that shot. Spo panics. And so
Spo panics. Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show.
Hispanic.
Amin Elhassan's
I believe Filipino.
is Amin's criticism correct that Spo panicked?
Just like that.
Just like that. Put it on the poll. He appreciates the way people treat
The whole
him.
series is flipped.
Spo
Spo's not a great
panicked.
coach.
Spo
Missoula did a great
panicked.
job.
So
I mean,
let's
watch the town.
This is yeah, exactly. This is why, right? Because Tatum has a 3 that I said again that happened off of a pick and roll where a guy couldn't react. A 3 that was kind of in transition, and a tough ISO mid-range jumper. The next possession down, he's got the ball. They send Caleb Martin a double, and Marcus Smart hits that 3. And so there's nothing in that sequence from Boston offensively that's like, oh, we can't stop them. All we got to do is just keep doing our job. You don't need to adjust and react in that moment. That's one of those moments where an adjustment actually was the wrong thing to do because that allowed Tatum the passing lanes.
They made 42% of their threes. When Marcus Smart makes those shots with that kind of consistency, you generally lose to the Boston Celtics, and they're entirely capable. They're a talented team to win a game on the road and shoot 42% from 3.
Not only Marcus Smart, when you have Grant Williams hitting 4 threes, when you have Al Horford hitting 4 threes, like that's where that comes from.
Yeah, a couple adjustments that I noticed from watching the game. Al Horford picking up Bam Adebayo the entire way, and it seemed as though Spo figures something out, or at least the players individually figured something out with a high pick and roll between Jimmy and Bam. It was cooking them, and they, for whatever reason, just went away from it. Why was that?
I mean, I couldn't tell you why they went away.
It didn't seem like Boston figured it out, and Missoula's not the type of coach to make an adjustment on the fly.
I would say that what happened in the second half was the Heat missed a lot of gimmies in the paint, and that hurt. And then also, because of that, they started forcing, and they had a bunch of turnovers in that second half that was just like the type, what the irony is, it's the kind of turnovers that Mike Shore texts me about, like, why haven't teams learned you can't make that pass against the Heat? But this time it was the Heat making those passes.
Bounce passes in the
Those
paint.
crazy
Exactly.
bounce.
Yeah, and Bam's solid at it.
Again with bounce passes.
You
in the
can't
paint.
do
He's
it.
right.
It's a first thing
Dan,
pistol pizza.
you
not
don't
the
bounce
first
it
thing.
into
It's
the
not
paint.
the first thing.
There's too many hands in the paint, Dan. That's it.
I understand
Just tight space.
why Mike is saying that.
Pistol Pete actually said Duncan Robinson cannot make that pass in the paint.